Hi there, this is Julie Stoner, and this is my sport-specific program design based on swimming. So just to give an introduction to my client, we have Jonna, who is a 200-meter butterfly stroke competitor. His goal is to become part of the Canadian national swim team after having tried out a few years ago. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. So based on his training, we will be doing a training period with him between March 20th and July 15th, which is approximately 16 weeks, so about 4 months. Throughout that period of time, he'll be in school full-time until June. He'll have swim practices 5 times a week, which last about 2 hours in duration, so that's about 10 hours in water per week. So he's made himself available for 4 hours per week for dry land training. And as well, he has a provincial swim meet in the first week of June. So my job as a trainer is just going to be to prepare him and hopefully help him achieve his goal of making the Canadian national swim team with dry land training. So just moving on to a little bit of background information about the movement analysis of the butterfly stroke. Briefly to summarize, there's 2 major components. There's the arm action and the leg action. So the arm action consists of the arm entry, the down sweep, and the up sweep. I just have a couple pictures to go with it here. Might be a little bit hard to see, but the arm entry, basically the arms just reach out in front of the body. So this is a picture of him going into the arm entry. The arms are going to be about shoulder width apart. The thumbs are going to be the first part to hit the water just to break it. Elbows are slightly higher than the hands with the elbows slightly bent. Next, we will move into the down sweep. So this is the movement from here to here is going to be the down sweep. The palms are facing down, the elbows bent at about a 90-degree angle, as you see here, as the arms move down. And then the up sweep is going to be the motion that's going to go from here back to here. The elbows fully extend and the hands change to face out and up towards the water. So in collection with that, we have the leg action, as I mentioned. There's 2 parts to it. There is the upbeat and the downbeat. An image to go along with it here. So this image here is the upbeat. So we've got the knees slightly bent. The feet are parallel facing up. You want to keep the ankles relaxed. And the motion is coming from the hips. The downbeat is just the opposite of this. It's when the legs and the knees will fully straighten. It'll propel the body forward and allow it to accelerate. Another component of the movement analysis for the butterfly stroke is the turning point. So it's when the swimmer reaches the wall and he has to push to turn away. So what he'll do is he'll have the hands touch the wall at the same time. He'll immediately throw one arm and that will cause his whole body to rotate and turn. Then he'll perform a sort of a triple flexion off the wall with his legs. He'll push back and explosively push off to accelerate forward and continue swimming with the butterfly stroke. Another important component to consider is the body positioning. So the body's laid in a prone position, top of the head forward with the shoulders and hips lying horizontal. Most importantly with the body positioning is the undulating movement. So that's just the combination of the arm action and the leg action working together. So the downbeat of the first kick should coordinate with the arm entry and the down sweep. And then the downbeat of the second kick should coordinate with the up sweep of the arms. So the upbeat of the leg action occurs in between there. This image is just to outline kind of a summary of the movement analysis. Moving on, we have the injury analysis. So the repetitive nature and the motions that a swimmer performs, especially elite swimmers since they're training so often, leaves them predisposed to several different injuries. The most common among swimmers happen to be the shoulder, the arm, and the low back. Here I just have listed some potential injuries that could occur at these injury location sites and the affected muscles that will be affected if an injury does occur. Okay, so next we're moving on to some time motion data. So this is just an analysis of some of Jonna's numbers in comparison to 2 elite butterfly swimmers. So one of the most important ones we want to look at is his personal best times. Jonna's personal best is 159.9, very close to 2 minutes, where the other 2 we have 156.65 and 158.22. So the 158 number, he was a swimmer in the Rio Olympics for the 200-meter butterfly. We can see that Jonna is so close to that time. He's almost there. He only needs to shed less than 2 seconds off his time to be at that level. So that's what we have to work with there. Height, he is fairly tall compared to the other two. His weight, he's a little bit heavier. Sum of 7 skin folds, unfortunately, there was no data to compare that to. His age, he is quite a bit younger, being 19 with the other two in their 20s. And his VO2 max score is quite a bit lower compared to the average swimmer. Jonah has an average VO2 max of 58.9, whereas the average elite swimmer has one between 66 and 80 milliliters per kilogram per minute. So next we're moving on to an analysis of the metabolic systems during a 200-meter butterfly race. So with the ATP PC systems, those last up to 30 seconds and they will be completely exhausted. After that, his lactic system will carry him through the remainder of the rest of the race, so up until 2 minutes. But 2 minutes is actually where the aerobic system starts to tap in, so he'll be just on the cusp of utilizing the aerobic system. So kind of what all this means, it gives us an idea to think about what his training priority should be in terms of aerobic or anaerobic. So there's been a lot of research to kind of say both. For example, there was one study that showed training the aerobic system to improve VO2 max scores had a direct effect on anaerobic swimming performance. It said it improved muscular contractions contributing to the anaerobic process, which should essentially make aerobic training a priority. However, Costel, who we are familiar with, has performed several studies saying that aerobic training did not provide any benefit whatsoever to competitive swimming, as the race will only be around 2 minutes in duration. So just to quote him here, he says, "Most competitive swimming events last less than 2 minutes. How can training for 3 to 4 hours per day at speeds that are markedly slower than competitive pace prepare the swimmer for maximal efforts of competition?" That quote there, with that information in mind, to give me something to think about as we move forward with the rest of the analysis. So next we'll be moving into physiological tests and performance. These are just some tests that are regularly performed on swimmers and some that I may utilize for Jana. So anthropometric measurements are a really good way to distinguish the elite athlete from the non-elite athlete. So it's a very important area to address. Some common assessments performed on swimmers include height, weight, wingspan, handspan, and skin fold measurements. Next would be strength and power assessments. So based on the movement analysis, it's really obvious that strength and power are two very important components when you're looking at the arm action and the leg action, as you need explosiveness to dive off the board or to make that quick and powerful turn. Same with upper body, you really need it during that turn to push away, as well as the arm action is huge just in the butterfly stroke in general. There was a study that confirmed a strong relationship between lower body strength and power in swimming performance. And as well, through the movement analysis, as I mentioned, we can determine the importance of the upper body arm action. So to assess these, I would utilize 1 rep max testing. I would do lat pull down, shoulder press, bench press, or squats. Right, and since it is an anaerobic race, I felt anaerobic testing would be appropriate. So unfortunately, I couldn't find too many studies that showed dry land anaerobic testing for swimming. However, based on my previous knowledge of being in the personal fitness training program, I figured it would be appropriate to do a 200 and a 400 meter sprint to provide a means of comparison based on distance and based on time, respectively, with the 200 and 400 meter. I'll get into that a little bit further into the presentation as to how I would go about that. Okay, moving on to Jana's strengths and weaknesses. So first and foremost, his age is going to be an advantage. We know that younger individuals tend to adapt more favorably to training programs. He is only 19, so he's got a lot of time to adapt to training. Height and standing reach was a little bit of a tough one to say. On working favorably with him is his height, because he is 6'2", and that was found to be the average height of all the swimmers of the Rio 2016 Olympics. However, it has also been shown that height does not necessarily correlate to good swimming performances. A lot of it has to do with the arm span, which was not information I was provided with, but if he did have a proportionate arm span to height ratio, it would be an advantage to him, as it would help with proper stroke mechanics and efficiency. his weight and skin fold measurements, although he was a little bit heavier than on average compared to the other two, it's not necessarily a bad thing. When I calculated his skin fold measurements, we found his body fat percentage to be 9.8. And I also found that the average body fat percentage for an elite swimmer was between 9 and 12%. If Jonna were to add a little bit of weight and be more in that 11 and 12% range, it could be detrimental to his swimming performance, and we would have to focus his training a little bit more on losing some weight just so it didn't cause any extra drag or anything. But thankfully that is not the case, so we don't need to focus on that. And his VO2 max. He has a VO2 max of 58.9 milliliters per kilogram per minute, which is an exceptional score compared to the average individual. However, the average elite swimmer, as mentioned, was between 60 and 80 milliliters per kilogram per minute, so there is plenty of room for improvement there. Okay, so based on all the information I just provided, I was able to determine a couple major training priorities, excuse me, for Jonna. So his first and foremost, I decided I wanted to go with anaerobic capacity over aerobic capacity to be his primary focus, because most importantly, his number one goal is just to shed a few seconds off of his race time. I completely agree with Costal that there is simply no purpose in training in methods that don't closely relate to his competition. He's only going to be training for 2 minutes. He's really stressing that anaerobic threshold and his capacity, so I think it's most important to put the focus on there. So when we're training and going to focus on that, we're really going to be working on developing the fast twitch muscle fibers and the large motor neurons, which I will get into further when we get into the program design and how I will incorporate training those variables. And next, of course, we'll be training for his overall strength and power. There's endless studies to support training for maximum strength and power really does benefit swimming performance. Just for example, as a couple, there was one that said twice weekly dry land strength training gave the ability to improve swimming force and velocity, as well as middle distance swimming performance, which will all contribute to improvements in Jonna's time. As well, another study showed that combination of dry land resistance training and resisted sprint exercises showed improvements in swimming velocity, stroke rate, and elbow strength. Again, these are all components that are really going to help Jonna shed a few seconds off of his time. So moving on, I have composed a 4-month periodized macro cycle for Jonna. So this is over his 16 weeks that I'll have with him. So in the red here, we're going to see I have prescribed maximum strength training. The purple will show muscular endurance power training. During the maximum strength weeks, I'm going to have him performing anaerobic sprints, and during the muscular endurance power, he will be expanding on that by doing resisted sprint training. So you'll see the blue bars here. These are just indicating his transition weeks. So the transition phases have been implemented just for the purpose that these different types of training styles might be a little bit of a shock to Jonna. We want to give him, a week here and there just to give him a bit of a break to allow his body to adapt and allow his adaptive reserve to recharge, and then he can prepare for the next mesocycle of training. We've also included 2 tapering phases. So the tapering phases are just reducing training load. It will allow for physiological and psychological benefits. It will reduce stress on Jonna before his event. So we've incorporated one just before week 10 where he's going to have his competition, and then just before where he would have his tryouts for the Canadian national team. We've also done an undulating periodization model to make for an effective and easy transition into the tapering and competition phases. So Jonna has made himself available for 4 hours per week for dry land training. I'm only going to have him training with me twice a week for an hour, maybe a little over an hour, just to avoid overtraining and to avoid contributions to the potential injuries that I went over during the injury analysis. We really don't want to overdo it with him. He's really busy with school, and of course he has 10 hours of in-water training, so we just want to help as much as we can, but we don't want to push it. So just looking more specifically into the mesocycles, here I provided the acute variables for maximum strength, which is what we're going to talk about first. So maximum strength is really effective at increasing those number of large motor units recruited and the frequency of the fast twitch fibers that are recruited, which, as we mentioned, is really important during anaerobic training. Improvements in these fiber types will contribute to strength development in the muscles. For the maximum strength, I decided I'm going to do an upper and lower body split routine. I feel it would be most effective in terms of strength training, so we can more specifically focus on the upper body muscle groups and the lower body muscle groups instead of incorporating them all into one day. So next, we'll talk about muscular endurance power. So I've incorporated 2 cycles of that. Here as well are the acute variables for that. They have been incorporated in order to break up the maximum strength training. They're really important because too much maximum strength training could produce an excess of muscle hypertrophy, which could be detrimental to swimming performance, as it could make him a little bit heavier and increase drag forces, as we talked about previously. It's also been incorporated following maximum strength because development and improvements in this area is not possible without properly developed fast twitch fibers, which we will obtain from the maximum strength training. The types of exercises that we'll be doing in muscular endurance power, we just want those that will most closely mimic what he's going to be doing in water. So the turning and pushing off sequence in the movement analysis, we want really forceful and explosive type movements. As well, we want to train maximum explosive power at maximum efforts, so we can further target those fast twitch muscle fibers and large motor units. For MVP, I'm going to do full body workouts just because I found a lot of exercises incorporate both upper body and lower body movements, and with the limited amount of time we have to work with him, this may be effective for that. So next we'll be talking about the sprint training as well as the speed resisted training, which is what we'll be doing. So touching back on the 200 meter and the 400 meter sprints, I think it would be most effective if that's how we test him with a 200 meter sprint and 400 meter sprint. That way we can evaluate his split times and we can see which anaerobic system he is most deficient in. So it'll either be alactic power, alactic capacity, lactic power, or lactic capacity. Each system has different types of training variables, so his training program would be designed based on which system I found he was most deficient in. And speed-resisted training I incorporated as sort of a progressive overload to whatever I would choose for him up here. I unfortunately couldn't find any scientific articles backing up dry-land speed-resisted training. However, I think it's probably the most closely mimics to what he will be doing in water. It's just going to be providing a little bit of resistance, but not too much while he's running and moving forward. So this is just a sample program of what he would be doing in week 4. So this would be a maximum strength and sprint training. So these exercises I've chosen, they're, again, a lot of this is based on what's most closely going to mimic what he's doing in water and the movement patterns. So I've done a warm-up with some self-myofascial release and static stretching to warm up the body. The resistance training, I've done exercises such as bench press and lat pull down, as it really closely mimics the upper body movements that we found in the movement analysis. And then I've incorporated the sprints. I've done lactic capacity solely for the purpose of an example, just to show how we'd be able to fit it into his program. Okay, and moving on to an example of week 15 for muscular endurance power. We've started him with a warm-up. We got a cool down similar to week 4. We're going to be doing that for everyone. For the resistance training for the muscular endurance power portion, we have done exercises that, again, will really closely mimic what he will be doing in water. So we've incorporated exercises like jump squats and bench throws with the Smith machine, as well as plyometric push-ups to really help him with that pushing and turning and the explosive movements. And here we've incorporated sprint resisted training with the parachute, again, just to closely mimic what he will be doing in water and how that will feel, and as well to target whatever system I deemed needed the most work anaerobically. So following this, I've got a few video exercises. They're just some demonstrations of a few exercises. So this is showing my skills as a trainer, and as well will show how I plan to progress the exercises. So the first video you'll see is just going to be a jump squat. I would do something like that in the first week of maximum strength training. Maybe by week 4 we will have, not by week 4. When we get into muscular endurance power, we'll have progressed from the jump squat to the loaded Smith machine jump squat. Same thing with the medicine ball chest pass. That's an easier type of muscular endurance power training. And to progress that, we would do a medicine ball power drop, both client and trainer based. So unfortunately, the client I wanted to do some maximum strength, like 3 rep max type training with her, but she was not an experienced enough resistance trainer that personally I didn't feel it was the safest to be doing that kind of training with her. However, with that being said, I am quite comfortable with that type of resistance training. This was a little bit newer kind of activity for me to do, so I was really excited to be able to demonstrate these exercises. As well, we had to go a little bit lighter on the weight with the chest pass because she was suffering a little bit of a wrist injury. Same with the power drop, just a little bit lighter weight because I didn't want to injure her any further. So with that being said, here are my video demonstration. Okay, Cece, so our first exercise is just going to ease you into training. This is just a simple jump squat. So what we're going to do, you're just going to bend down, you're going to swing your arms back for some momentum, and you're going to jump and reach your arms up and just land back down softly. So you're going to jump, I'll do a few repetitions, so just make sure, keep your spine in a nice neutral alignment. When you're landing, you don't want to turn your knees in or out, just keep them nice and straight. Feet parallel, facing forward. Yeah, you got it. Is that okay? Do you have any questions? Okay, so we'll have you perform 10 repetitions of this exercise. Ready? And down, go up, 1, squat down, 2, down, 3, 4, 5, good work, 6, good, 7, 8, swing those arms, 9, nope, 9, one more, 10. Awesome, great job. Okay, Stacey, so this next one's a progression from the jump squats we did at the beginning of your program. So this one's a jump squat on the Smith machine. So we put a little bit of load on here. You're going to stand with your feet about shoulder width apart, feet always facing forward. You'll just unhook the weight here and get it nice and positioned on your back. You'll squat down, and you're just going to jump up. So again, when you land, you want to keep your feet, again, parallel facing forward. You want to keep your spine straight the whole time. Good alignment, and you're going to jump up, and you'll just continuously do 6 repetitions. There you go. And again, when you land, make sure your knees don't turn in or out. You want to keep them nice and straight facing forward. Okay, any questions? Yep. You all good? Yeah. All right, so we'll make sure we get you positioned and set up well here. All right. Bring that bar a little bit lower on your back. Perfect, just so it's resting across your shoulders. Great. And you could scoot your feet forward a little bit. Perfect, and in a little bit. In, awesome, yeah, that's perfect. All right, and we'll squat down. Good, nice straight spine, and jump up. 1, 2, 3, 4, awesome, 5, one more, push, 6. Great, and drop the weight there. Great work. Okay, Stacey, our next exercise is a medicine ball chest pass. So I'm just going to demonstrate to you like what your motions are going to be without the ball, and then I'll have you perform it with your chest ball. So you're going to be standing with the ball like this. Your hands just in front of your chest, kind of right here. You're going to step forward, and you're just going to explosively throw the ball at me with some momentum, and then I'll just gently toss it back to you. So this one is an explosive chest movement. It's going to help when you push off the wall when you're in the water. It'll give you that momentum. Make sense? Okay. So I'll have you start with the ball. We'll get you all set up with the positioning, and then we'll start from there. We're going to perform 6 repetitions of this exercise. So you'll stand here, and don't worry, I'm going to catch it. And then you'll explosively throw the ball forward. Go. Awesome, and I'll just toss it back to you. How'd that feel? Okay, good. All right, so we'll do 6 of those. Ready? 1. Go. 2. Awesome. 3. 4. Good work. 2 more. 5. And last one, make it the hardest. 6. Awesome work. All right, our next exercise is called the medicine ball power drop. So we're going to do a couple different variations of this one. The first one, I'm going to have you lay on your back. What you're going to do, you're going to start in this position. You're going to have the medicine ball in your hand. From here, I'll be standing right above you, ready to catch the ball. Similar to the chest pass, you're going to just place your hands right above your chest. You're going to throw the ball up, I'm gonna catch it, and then I'll just lightly or gently give it back to you, and you'll lower down. Same kind of explosive motion as the other one. You're just gonna throw it up, and then gently bring it back down. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So you can lay down there. And you want to keep your elbows like nice and tucked in as well, so we'll just get you set up in the right position here just so you get a good feeling for it. So you'll be in that position from when you throw the ball up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And again, don't be afraid. I'm right here to catch the ball, and you throw it up as hard as you can. And we'll do 6 repetitions of this exercise. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
And go. Good. 1, and go. 2. Awesome. 3. Good work. 4. 5. And one more. Ready? 6. Awesome work. Okay. And then we'll move into the next one, so I'll just demonstrate the next one to you. So this one's kind of a similar idea. It's just going to be different because I'm going to be dropping the ball from up above. So the only difference with this one, you're going to keep your arms about here ready to go. You want to keep a slight bend in your elbows. You don't want to lock them out. I'll drop it down to you. You'll bring the ball down and you'll throw it back up and I'll catch it. So same, kind of the same idea, but just I'm going to start dropping it. And I'll go here and like that. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then before every repetition, I'm just going to say ready. You'll say yes if you're ready, and we'll go to the next round. Ready? Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Bring down and throw up. Ready?
Yeah.
Down. All right, try and make it one fluid motion. Don't pause at the top. Ready? Ready? Good. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
And one more. Ready?
Yeah.
Great. Right, so to conclude, after doing 16 weeks of this macro cycle with Jana, I really believe that he will have the tools necessary and he will have developed the skills just to shed that couple of seconds off his time. I think the biggest struggle for me as a trainer with this particular client was that there was not a lot of information based on dry land training and in-water training, kind of the relationship there. So I really had to do a lot of critical thinking, but it came down to me realizing that my purpose is just to help develop the factors that will help him in water. My job is not to directly help him in water. So again, I am really confident through the 16 weeks of maximum strength, muscular endurance, power, and anaerobic training and speed resisted training that he will have developed the skills necessary to make the Canadian national team. Thanks for watching.